Welcome back. Appreciate the support. And as promised, we're going to talk a little bit about what I invest in, why I invest in it, and what I use as anchors. So, first, let's take a look at benchmarks to see how I'm performing compared to the S&P 500. So, I'm pretty heavy in tech, which is why I titled tech as the name of my portfolio. And I, over the last year, have a 24% return. I'm up about 9% over the S&P. Over since 2022 when I started, I'm at 82% compared to the S&P. I'm up about 20%, which is still pretty good. It's about I don't know what that would be over the course of 4 years, exactly how much extra per year, but it adds up to be a lot. So let's take a look at what my anchors are and what's in my portfolio. So I primarily anchor with VGT. Most of my portfolio is in VGT, which is very heavy in the tech sector. It's around 300 some stocks, primarily Microsoft, Apple, Nvidia are the top couple holdings within VGT. I do have some VU to be an anchor as well. Just when there's big downturns, it's nice to have an anchor that keeps you from going really far down really fast. And then I got a little FOMO, so I bought some Microsoft with, it's about 13% of my portfolio. Honestly, I wish I didn't own it. As you can see, it's got the lowest return out of everything in my portfolio. And timing has to do with some of these returns too. Like some of them, like VGT, I've typically tried to buy the dip. Same with VU. And then XLK, I have never bought since I moved my money over to M1 Finance. It's just what I owned when I moved my money over from Fidelity. And the reason I moved my money from Fidelity is because with Fidelity, for your margin, it costs like 12% versus in M1 Finance, I think they start you off at like 6.15%, somewhere around there. And so just over short periods of time, like just today here, I'm up what, 0.29%. And the thing is, most people chase fast gains, and that's a big problem. So what you need to do actually is you need to get a meaningful amount invested early. And last video, we talked a little bit about people who care about income producing stocks and try to do this with variations of margin, maybe doing covered calls to produce some income to cover their debt cost, or maybe they just buy income producing stocks like AT&T. And I know there's a bunch of different variations that have a much higher yield than AT&T, but that's the first one that came to mind. And the problem with this is you don't really get any growth. So if we were to look at something like AT&T, over a period of 5 years, you got a 27% return. We were just talking about how I am primarily in VGT. Over that same 5 years, you would have boasted a 130% gain. So I do have a friend, you might find him on YouTube. His name is Margin Mindset, and he really likes SCHG. So that's another great anchor. And the thing with SCHG is that it's a lot more growth diversified. It's in the financial sector and it's in a couple other sectors as well. It's not just tech. So you might get some companies in here like Tesla, like maybe Robinhood. Let's check out some of the holdings. In a future video, I'll tell you exactly what I look for in stocks, in ETFs when I buy ETFs. I actually don't recommend anybody buys any individual stocks. In my opinion, you should just be going for ETFs that are somewhat concentrated. And the reason you want something concentrated is if you're too diverse and you're in something like the S&P 500, you're going to get very average returns. If you do what everybody else does, expect to get the result that everybody else gets. So even in something like SCHG, you have an 11% weighting for Nvidia. It's the heaviest company in here, but you get exposure to some companies that aren't in VGT, like Amazon, Tesla, Visa, versus, let's see, VGT is, like I said, it's exclusively tech. So for holdings for VGT, you're a little heavier in Nvidia, you're in Apple and Microsoft as your top three. And then Broadcom is number four. You have like Palantir, which a lot of people have gotten into, AMD, which has started to roar because Nvidia, I think, had put a lot of money into AMD or bought a lot of their shares or something like that pretty recently here. So those are some of the holdings that might be good. Another holding you might like would be VUG. And this is going to be very similar to SCHG. It's got very comparable growth. I couldn't off the top of my head tell you the differences between the two. Let's take a look at the holdings and see if we can maybe figure that out. Nvidia, Apple, Microsoft, Amazon. Looks very similar, like down here instead of, what did you have, like Visa or something before? Now it's Eli Lilly and company. So it is like you still have Tesla in here, you still have Amazon in here. So they're going to be comparable, but I do think SCHG has maybe some better holdings in it. So those are some of the things you're going to look for in ETFs when you're looking at what you want for your portfolio. Holdings is a very important one, and maybe which sector you're going to be in. To be honest, this strategy of using margin to grow your portfolio quickly, in my opinion, it works best when you get into growth, whether that's in VUG, SCHG, VGT, FTEC, XLK. Those are going to be all very heavy in growth, and it works so much better than trying to buy something that's income producing to just make your margin payment for you. So with this strategy though, one thing to note is you do need cash flow from somewhere to make your margin payment. So probably you're going to give up some early like freedom, so to speak. And to be honest, though, that's not exactly true because when you're starting out, you don't really have much freedom. You do need to build assets to get to freedom. So you're going to have to work a job. You're going to have to maybe get a rental property, like get a roommate. There's so many different ways you can bring income in, sell something, start a business, whatever that might be. And you're going to use that cash to make your margin payment. And I can tell you, people that do dividend stocks don't see this type of growth. And let's look at a more realistic example would be my net worth here is this is still some pretty heavy growth. And people that buy these dividend stocks and covered calls and things like that to make their margin payment, they're trying to get a very big dividend to where it covers their margin payment. And then they're going to try to pay off that margin so that they can live off the dividends, so to speak. I would rather get a ton of growth within, say, 10, 15 years, that same time period, and have a multi-million-dollar portfolio much faster. And then if I choose to, I can then sell some shares to pay off that debt. So what I mean by that is when I look over at borrow, I have $147,000 borrowed of this 563. I could sell 147 and I would still have 414. And I did this pretty quickly. Like you can do this much faster than if you're going to be using the covered call option, if you're going to be investing for dividends, if you're going to be, another thing I would never recommend using for margin would be day trading. You never want to use margin to day trade. You miss out on so many opportunities. Some of the benefits of this that you get that you don't get with these other strategies would be you get dividends, you don't pay any taxes because you never sell. You get appreciation, like much more appreciation. Those are some of the biggest ones. Let's take a look real quick before we wrap up for the day at some of the dividend payments that I've gotten. So even though none of these really pay much in dividends, that's interesting. That's not what I meant to do at all. Let's go like this. So dividends here, you can see, let's see, my last dividend payment was these couple here. So I have Microsoft for $17 as well. I don't know why they break them out into two different payments. I'd have to look into that. XLK, $28. And then VGT, the lion's share of my portfolio, brings in $465. And then VU brings in $157. So you still get dividends with this. It's not going to be as heavy in dividends as maybe covered call options or as it would be if you're buying just dividend stocks. And that doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is growth. This pays like a third of my debt, and that's perfectly fine with me. I don't care if I have some debt that I carry. If my margin interest rate is under like 7%, which it got up to for a while, and I can earn 15%. If I can earn, I'm up 30% in the last year. I'm up 26% year to date. If I'm earning even 15% a year, I get to keep the entire spread. I get to keep the entire 15% to 5.4%. That's 10%. That adds up to so much over a period of time. Before we wrap up, I want to check out one more thing. The only thing I like about Dave Ramsey is his investing calculator. So if I were to hop on here and, oops, let's go back one here. So let's say I'm 33, which is true. Let's say 15 years from now, what is my portfolio? My value, it's based on this, is 563,000. So 15 years from now, I'd be 48. It's 568,000. Let's say I earn a 15% return, which VGT averages. Let's say I don't contribute anything else. VGT averages around 17% or so. I've done the math many times. I've checked it out. I'd have 5 million. That same amount of debt, let's say my debt was, what was it, like 147, and it's 5.4%, would cost me 329. I get to keep the entire difference between those two. That is just such a big spread. That's why it's so much more powerful than growth. Growth is so much more powerful than dividends because of this. What did I say? 15%? Like even at 15%, it's 5.3 million. I get to keep $5 million. Like in 15 years, if I don't add anything else. Of course, I'm going to be adding to this. In just a few years, I'm going to be worth a couple million. And my goal is to get to 3 million by the time I'm, we'll say 42. I think it'll be well past that. I'll be at 2 million if I don't add anything. When I keep doing this strategy, I promise you guys, check out my channel in 5 years from now. I'll be at 2 million in 5 years. I promise you. That's it for today. Looking forward to the next video. See you soon.